Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Today is Tuesday, December 4th, 2018, and I would like to talk with you guys about the mysterious yet still very unexplainable seismic event that took place on 11/11. Seismic sensors first picked up what I would call vibrational frequency changes on a small island in between Africa and Madagascar called Mayotte. The waves, or again what I call vibrations, were then picked up by other seismic sensors all over the world, and article after article shows contradictions in scientists' explanations of the event, which was really interesting to me because everything I read was just like one article would contradict another. They were even contradicting themselves within like one article. It was like one article would contradict itself. It was just crazy what you find when you look up this event. Here it uses the word solved, only to read on to use the term almost certainly. Solved? And almost certainly, clearly, after reading all of these articles, scientists are just completely baffled as to what may have caused this event. This article is titled, Mysterious Seismic Event That Shook the Planet for 20 Minutes on November 11th, and No One Felt It. This one really had me thinking, did no one feel it? Or did many of us feel it beforehand? I full-heartedly believe in a collective consciousness. I believe that it's some type of unseen field of vibrations or frequencies that mankind is tapped into. Kind of like how I thought of the Sentinelese people out of the blue, only to discover that they killed an American the day before. A disturbance in the force, if you must. So many people were expecting something, anything big to take place on this day, including myself. Go check out my 11/11/18 video. I actually have two of them. The other one goes further into detail about the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, and it's like the second or third video that I ever made. So I wouldn't say that it flows as smoothly as these videos do, but it's definitely interesting nonetheless. And in these videos, I explain how numbers really mean more in this reality than they should. And that if something big were to happen on 11/11, that to me, that would prove simulation theory, or at least lean towards that thought more. Now, I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again, because I will repeat this and I will scream it from the rooftops over and over and over again. Simulation does not disprove God. If anything, it's more evidence of God's existence. God created this reality for our spiritual beings to enter into and grow, develop, and learn specific things that we need to know to be a part of the grander creation, or the real or base reality, or better known by us as heaven. Now, if you fail your task at hand, that's when you fall further into this false reality. You fall into a reality that only exists within this reality, and that reality we've come to know of as hell. Now, I could be wrong, I could be right, or I could just be crazy, but the fact that this was a worldwide event and that there are only 365 days a year, so it could have been any number of those days, and only one 11/11/18 every 100 years, statistically, I at least have what are the chances on my side, right? We're living in the apocalypse, the unveiling, and in times of revelation. Let us not forget the Revelation 12 sign that took place on September 23rd of 2017. God left us His word to coincide with these signs so that we would all know. And yes, it is true that no one man shall know the exact day and time, but God will direct His children. We will know when the time is near, and I plead to you all, make peace with our Father. He is our Maker, our Creator, and anyone who has children knows the kind of love you feel the very first time you look into their empty, yet so curious and innocent little eyes. Especially as a woman, and not to knock fathers, but to grow a human being inside of you, the feeling's absolutely amazing. Almost unexplainable, but certainly unconditional. That intense and immense love, though, that you feel in that very moment, that's only a fraction of the love that God has for you. And what does God want in return? Well, He wants nothing really, hence the free will option, but what God needs from you is your love in return. He wants you to forgive and love as He does. If you can't forgive, how do you expect to be forgiven? If you show no remorse, you show the true darkness of your soul. Now, it's only God's place to judge, but I believe that He created this reality to do just that. So does living in a matrix mean that nothing matters? Well, no, I would say it means the exact opposite, and that these signs and events are here to serve as a warning that this level is almost complete, and assessments will be made, and a reset will be done. And now I'm just beginning to ramble, and I really have to make a video dedicated to God and simulation theory in the future, because there's so much that goes on in my crazy little head about that. Let's just get back to the event that took place on the 11th of last month. Here it says, mysterious seismic waves were picked up by monitoring stations from Madagascar to Canada, were most likely caused by an underwater volcano and earthquake, expert claims. A low rumbling that could not be felt above ground was detected on November 11th and narrowed down the origin to a region just off the coast of the island of Mayotte. They were similar to those typically seen after large earthquakes, which are known to travel great distances, but no such earthquake took place. Theories as to what caused the cryptic rumble ranged from a slow earthquake to an undetected meteor strike. Most likely, using terms like this is making it very clear that they have no idea whatsoever what caused this vibration. And again, I disagree that this was detected by so many, or that it was undetected by so many, I'm sorry. It was just detected beforehand. And so no earthquake took place, no meteor hit. And we know no meteor hit because scientists say that it would have had to have been so huge to cause such an event like what took place that it most certainly would not have gone unnoticed by people. Like, it just wouldn't have. Here's a little information on the kind of waves that these seismographs pick up. The first signal is called primary wave, a high-frequency compression waves that radiate in bunches. Then comes a secondary wave. These high-frequency waves tend to wiggle somewhat more. Only then comes the surface waves. These slow, deep rumbles tend to linger and can circle the Earth several times. The November 11th event is notable that no primary or secondary waves were detected. All that registered was a deep resonant surface wave, and it didn't rumble as an earthquake surface wave tends to. Instead, it maintained a much cleaner, almost musical frequency. I want everyone to take note of that statement, that it was a much cleaner, almost musical frequency. Sorry about that. Because they say this is because of how perfect the vibrations were, and that they were too perfect to have been nature itself. You know when perfection in this reality really comes into play? You know when perfection seems to surface in this reality? It's when it was by design. I've often thought that God left us the stars as a kind of clock that we just forgot how to read, and that might be why he left us the Revelation 12 verse, so that we could recognize the face of that clock on that day. Now this says Eckstrom. Now Eckstrom is just another geographical or geological scientist or whatever, and he says, Eckstrom, who specializes in unusual earthquakes, points out much about the November 11th event was weird. It was as though the planet rang like a bell, maintaining a low frequency monotone as it spread. So it was though the planet rang like a bell, maintaining a low frequency monotone. Now, our observations and perceptions of this reality is all picked up or received by different frequencies. Everything has a frequency, from what we're hearing in our ears to the Earth itself. The Earth's frequency is called the Schumann resonance. Look it up. Like, everything has a frequency. I lean towards thinking that this seismic event was some kind of shifting in the Earth's frequency itself, or even was this event possibly a shifting in man's frequency? Now, most of these articles are saying that no primary or secondary waves were detected, but I did find one that says that they were, or at least that tiny tremors that appeared to be such were detected. Now, after everything I read, it seems that they are reporting that none of these waves were picked up simply because those readings provide more evidence to the fact that this was not at all a naturally occurring earthquake. This here is the only article I found that stated this, and it says, the early period of rumbling was also overprinted with what seemed to be the PNS waves of tiny tremors, explains Lomax. She's just another scientist, who spotted the faint pings by filtering out the low-frequency signals. Such pings are commonly associated with magma moving and fracturing rocks as it squirts through the crust. But even those signals were a little strange, says Helen Robinson, a PhD candidate in applied volcanology at the University of Glasgow. She says, "They're too nice. They're too perfect to be nature," she jokes. Although she quickly adds that an industrial source is impossible since no wind farms or drilling are taking place in the deep waters off Mayotte shores. See, now that's interesting. Again, I want you to take note of that. How she quickly adds it can't be caused by drilling. And they left out the P&S wave readings because it points to these waves being created by an outside source. And this is deeply bothering the elite. Now, I only say the elite because we had the privilege of it being reported to us by the mainstream media. The elite know it's not by their hand, and the readings being picked up point to how unnatural the shaking or vibrating that occurred was. So what was the outside source? Well, to put that in a way that all of our brains could envision properly, it was God pushing a button to set off a chain of events that we are still yet to see. These vibrations may have changed the frequency of all mankind for all we really know. We really won't know for sure until more comes to play out. But I'm certain we are most certainly going to find out pretty soon. This article, to me, is just more evidence to my theory. And it says, however, there was no big earthquake kicking off the recent slow waves. Adding to the weirdness, Mayotte's mystery waves are what scientists call monochromatic. Most earthquakes send out waves with a slew of different frequencies, but Mayotte's signal was a clean zigzag dominated by one type of wave that took a steady 17 seconds to repeat. So, it was monochromatic, which means it consisted of a single wavelength or frequency. So it was all a part of a single wavelength or frequency. And that it zigzagged perfectly across the earth for 20 minutes straight with 17-second intervals. 20 minutes straight with 17-second intervals. You know what? That sounds all too familiar to a woman who's given birth herself. These are contractions. That's right. I said it. They're contractions. The earth is just as alive as you and me, and the labor pains that were to begin after the Revelation 12 sign were to begin after the Revelation 12 sign. These perfect vibrational intervals that we didn't physically feel, but I'll bet that the earth did, are just the beginning. Here's a few more screenshots that I took just to show you that they really have no clue what's going on, like at all. This one says mysterious seismic waves picked up by monitoring stations from Madagascar to Canada were most likely caused by a volcano under the seabed, an earthquake expert explains. So most likely, with terms like this, like I said, they have no idea what's going on. This one says that they were similar to those typically seen after large earthquakes, which are known to travel great distances, but no such earthquake took place. And then, using words like theories are just ideas. Theories are what I give you guys every time I make a video. Theories. Theories as to what caused the cryptic rumble ranged from a slow earthquake to an undetected meteor strike. But one scientist who has studied the charts told Mail Online that the trembling was almost certainly. Okay, so almost certainly means it wasn't certainly, and that they have no freaking clue whatsoever. And yet, they still use title lines like these with words like solved. Solved, yeah, please. They don't know any more now than they did on the day of the event. The media has the audacity to call everyone but them fake news, yet they blatantly lie in their reporting. You see, something has to happen. As it says in the Bible, if God were not to step in, there would be nothing left. I want you all to take a step back and away from the distractions of this life and look at what we've done and what we continue to do. Mass die-offs are happening everywhere. Plastic outweighs the fish in the ocean. AI is steadily planning its takeover, and that's if it hasn't already begun. We kill each other every day. We perform mass sacrifices of God's creatures for these so-called holidays, or as God sees it, the traditions of men. We, not us specifically, but as a society, have placed Lucifer in every corner of the world, and if something were not to intervene, man, by way of Lucifer's plan, would destroy all that God has created. The Bible states that there will be a battle taking place in heaven during these days, and I think we're seeing this seeping through into our reality every day. Remember those mysterious booms people were and still are reporting? Well, I believe that all of these things are related, including the earthquake in Alaska. We are now watching the earth give birth to a new chapter a new world, and not a new world order as they intend. This time it will be and belong to God. It'll be God's world and all of his people. So the testing of the Spirit should make complete sense to all of us right now. Look at the damage created by this quake. The earth is beginning its cleanse, and most of us are more parasitic than helpful. I hate to say it, but it's true. To all of God's creation, we're parasites. It's terrible. The earthquakes, the fires in California, and this recent seismic event really speak volumes to what time it is. I used to pray to prolong the end. I now pray that God is just by my family's side as we live through it. I no longer long for these days to continue. Everything has become so dark and demonic that I now long for a more godly place to exist in. And I realize how that has to happen. I'm not saying that I'm not terrified, because I most certainly am. I'm just stating that I have come to the realization that society has passed the point of no return, and drastic measures must be taken by God himself in order to fix what man has done. I used to think, forgive us, for we know not what we do. But I mean, come on, don't bullshit the Father. We know exactly what we're doing. And if we want to pass this test, then it's time to fess up. Ask for forgiveness, and then ask for help. Tough days are definitely to come, and many, many, many people are going to lose faith when the rapture doesn't happen. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that a rapture will take place. It says one will be taken and one will be left. And I believe that's already taken place. So many of us are dying today at such a very young age. I'm in my 30s and I've lost so many friends already, long before their time. God is taking those home who can't handle what is to come, spiritually. We know this because God's people are there after the tribulation. After the tribulation. Many will die during, just because of their faith. Now, I want to read to you a section out of Matthew chapter 10, verses 27 through 39. Just give me a second here. Grab my Bible. Now it says, "Whatever I tell you in the dark," and this is all the words of Jesus, because it's all written in red. I've got my New King James Version, so I know what Jesus said specifically, or is quoted of as saying. So it says, "Whatever I tell you in the dark, speak in the light, and what you hear in the ear, preach on the housetops." Now, I feel this is like the different feelings and different guides. Like, I get guided sometimes in my videos. That's exactly what that means. Whatever you hear in your ear, preach on the housetops. "And do not fear those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul, as in man. But rather fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a copper coin, and not one of them falls to the ground apart from your Father's will? But the very hairs on your head are all numbered. Do not fear, therefore you are of more value than many sparrows. Therefore, whoever confesses me before men, him I will also confess before my Father who is in heaven. But whoever denies me before men, him I will also deny before my Father who is in heaven. Do not think that and this is where, like I said, I realize what has to happen. And it says Christ brings the vision. This is what has to happen for the new world. Do not think that I came to bring peace on earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's enemies will be those of his own household. He who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And he who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And he who does not take his cross and follow me is not worthy of me. He who finds life will lose it, and he who loses life for my sake will find it." He who loses life for my sake will find it. Some of God's people will perish during the tribulation, which leaves to be said that not all of them can disappear beforehand, but others will be left. It's an asinine thought to think that. And the people that are going to be left, though, because God's people will be here, we're going to exist through the tribulation, and there's going to be people that exist after the tribulation. The Bible states as such. Those people will become the ancestors to God's next chapter. So if you believe in the rapture and it doesn't come to pass, please, please, please don't lose your faith, brothers and sisters. This is how our souls are measured. This is how we are tested. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Also hit the notification bell if you'd like to know when I post new videos. I'm not a daily poster, so I promise I won't be dinging on your phone 10 times a day or whatever. I have a couple channels I watch that, not all of them, but there are a couple different channels I watch that post like 10 or 15 videos a day, and I had to like unhit that bell because it just gets crazy after a while. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Please stay strong, and may God bless each and every one of you. I hope to see you guys in my next video.